this video, we're going to get our character to jump. To start off with, we've created a public integer variable called jump height, and as it sounds, that's going to be how high our character can jump. Next, we have to tell it when we actually want it to jump, right? So I want my space key to be the key that causes my character to jump. And if we go back to Unity, if you watch the input video, you'd know that Unity has a input class. So if we go to Edit, Project Settings, and Input, it's loading. And I look at my input manager, I have one here called Jump. And that's called Jump with a capital J. And if you watch that input video, you'd know that to get that input, I can use an if statement, like that. And then in the condition, I can say if input.get button down, like that. And inside those brackets, I can pass it which button, and it was called jump. And remember, you have to put it inside a string, so inside quotation marks. So if the jump key is pressed, and the jump key is by default set to space, so positive button here is space. So if that's set to jump, what do I want to do? Similar to the last video, it's going to be rb.velocity equals a new vector 2. And in the x direction, I don't want to change anything, so I'll leave it as rb.velocity.x, so it continues its current x velocity. And in the y direction, I just want to put jump height. Just like that. So I'll save that. And when I click on my character and look at its 2D rigid body component inside the inspector, and at the player controller script inside the inspector, my jump height is currently set to 0. So I'll set that to, I'll just set it to 7 for now, and we can test it when we press play. And I'll press play. And now when I press space, I jump. Now, if you notice, the way the player is jumping looks kind of floaty. So I'm happy with that height, left at 7 for now, but it looks really floaty. Right? And the reason for that is because it's falling at the same rate as your jump. So you want your falling to be faster than the rate you're jumping at. To fix that, that's easy. If I click on my player and look at its 2D rigid body component inside the inspector, I can click here on use auto mass. So it'll guess the mass of the game object depending on how big the sprite is. And I'm going to set its gravity much higher. So I'll just say, I don't know, 7. Right? If I play that now, and I press space, it falls much faster, but it can't jump higher because gravity is pulling it back down. So to counter that, I'll just stop the game here. To counter that, we can just increase our jump height higher. So it'll add more velocity upwards. So I'll set it to about 20, and I'll test that by playing. And the jump looks much more natural. Right, but you can play around with those settings and decide for yourself what you want your jump animation or your jump to look like. Now, a big problem is I can still double jump or triple. I can jump unlimited number of times because I'm just adding values to that y velocity. Now, to fix that, in my input, in my player controller script, when I say if my input is jumping, I can add another condition like this. So 2 of the ampersand signs, that means and. Right, so when I say when the space key or the jump key is pressed, and when the rb.velocity.y is equal to 0, then I'll want to jump. Right, so both of these conditions have to be true. So I have to press the space key, and my velocity in the y direction has to be exactly equal to 0 before it'll allow me to jump. And that works because when you have a velocity, on your way up, you have positive velocity, and on your way down, you have negative velocity. So when you've collided with your platform and you're just standing still, your velocity is exactly 0. So this forces you not to be able to jump unless you're standing on a platform or something solid. So I'll save that and we'll go run it again. Now when I press play, no matter how many times I press the space, I'll only jump when I hit the ground again. So I'll go down my platform and I should be able to jump. Cool. And that's the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to get our camera to follow our player. So when I go this side, notice in the scene, so over here, I've put another platform from my prefab up here. Right, so if I watch the scene, I can jump onto that because the scene's zoomed out, but in the game, I can't see the character. And that's because the camera, which is over here, isn't following the player. And we'll figure out how to do that in the next video.